essay 5, you are going to choose something you think people should be worried about or afraid of, and you're going to write a short essay, 3-4-ish pages, something like that, that would share this with an audience and let them know that they should be worried about it, and then hopefully make them worried about it as well. So you're going to model this off of the types of articles we read back during essay 2. And very much like essay 2, you can actually write about something that's not a real threat. You have permission during this assignment to make something up or exaggerate something that's a real threat. Or you can write about something real. It's totally up to you. But the idea is that if you can do these things well with something that's made up, that means you'd be especially well equipped to make a convincing case and use these appeals well when something is a real thing. So that's why I give you the permission. It can make it a little bit more fun. You can use sources, you do not have to, and if you're making up your threat, you have permission to make up your sources as well. You just want to make it look like they're real sources. So like, don't make obviously fake names and things like that, but the more you can make it look like it's based off of real sources and that you have real information and things like that, the more convincing it's going to be. In a nutshell, you want to make this a type of assignment where I read it, and when I'm done, I'm convinced that this is a real thing, even if it's not a real thing. So you want to do all of these appeals well, because if you do all 3 well, that does make a very convincing case. So as we're going over this semester and focusing on reviewing this week, you want to use emotional appeal well. You want to get your readers' attention with emotional appeal. You also want to have them concerned by the end of it. So you need to make it real, like we talked about during essays 3 and 4. You want to make sure that you appear credible, that you write in such a way that people will take it seriously, that you show that you're knowledgeable on the topic, and you also want to make it logical. You want to make a logical case for why this could and should be something people worry about. So you're going to be combining these things. A good way to do this is to start off with a story at the beginning to get the reader's attention, start getting that emotional investment, and then throughout the rest of it, you're doing mostly logic, but combining in occasional emotional appeals with like stories and examples and things like that to keep the reader emotionally invested. And then when you do all these things well and it's very polished when you're done and you're showing that you're including information and relying on sources, that ends up taking care of the ethos for you. So it ends up doing all 3. But that's really what I'm evaluating them on, is how well are you doing these 3 appeals? Are you showing that you understand them and can use them well? So very often on this assignment, if there's anything you need to add, it's usually emotional appeal. Generally, students do a really great job with the logic and make a really great case for why people should consider this a real threat, but they might not do as much of the emotional appeal of getting people afraid that it could affect them or making it feel like a real thing that affects real people. So very often on a first draft, my comments end up being, okay, you got the logical appeal down, great, good job. And so now let's find a few places where we can add a little bit more emotional appeal. So if you keep that in mind as you're working on it, it might help you make sure that those are in your first draft, which means you'll basically be done after the first draft. But the full instructions obviously are written down. This is just sort of a highlights of what to expect and what to plan for as you're working on the essay.